This is the story of the family of Jacob, also known as Israel, and it's a really messed up family. Jacob has fathered many children to multiple women, and he has a favorite son who happens to be the firstborn of his favorite wife, Rachel. That son, whose name is Joseph, is a dreamer. At this point, Joseph has two different dreams that we know of, two different dreams with the same message. He will one day be superior. Maybe he is already, but he will one day be superior to the other members of his family. In fact, they will literally bow down to him. More problematic than the dreams themselves is the fact that Joseph arrogantly and naively shares these dreams with his family. The brothers hate him for it, and even his father chastises him for his words. I said a moment ago that Jacob favored Joseph. If that wasn't already obvious, it becomes abundantly clear when he gives his favorite son a special coat. Traditionally translated as a coat of many colors, the Hebrew term here more accurately refers to a coat with long sleeves or a coat with ornamentation, something like a royal garment worn by the child of a king. Regardless of which translation is more accurate, the coat confirms what the brothers already knew, that Jacob loves Joseph more than any of his other sons. One more reason for the brothers to hate him. The action in today's reading begins with Jacob sending Joseph to check on his brothers who are tending the family flocks out in the fields. Now, the last time this happened, Joseph had given his father a bad report about his brothers. Did they need one more reason to hate him? So there they are out in the fields, and they see Joseph off in the distance coming toward them. Worse yet, the snitch is wearing that symbol of their father's affection, the despised coat. Fueled by hatred and jealousy, the brothers hatch a plot to kill him. Reuben comes off looking pretty good here with his plan to instead throw Joseph into a cistern with the intention of later coming back to rescue him. But motives are not always pure. Could it be that Reuben was trying to get back into his father's good graces after having slept with one of his father's concubines? We don't know. Well, that plan goes sideways when Joseph suggests that instead of killing Joseph, they should simply sell him into slavery. And that's what they do. Then, to cover up what they had done, they kill a goat and soak Joseph's coat with goat blood, then present the coat to their father, letting him believe that his favorite son has been devoured by wild animals. Jacob tears his clothes in grief, dresses himself in rough burlap, and mourns his son for a long, long time. His sons and daughters try to comfort him, but he refuses their comfort. "I'll go to the grave mourning my son," he tells them. Oh, how this father loved this son. Oh, how this father wept for this son. Yes, this is the story of the family of Jacob, and it's a really messed up family. Favoritism, arrogance, sibling rivalry, jealousy, hatred, a murder plot, human trafficking, deception, grief. The dreams of Joseph have contributed to a family nightmare. So, what are we to make of this story? I suppose it could function as a cautionary tale, warning us about the importance of maintaining appropriate and healthy relationships within our families. Parents, refrain from showing favoritism. Siblings, keep your jealousy in check. Refrain from acting out your anger in unhealthy or destructive ways. Think about the consequences before you act. Step up and take on the role of peacemaker every time you can. Love your family members even when they behave badly, even when they are not so lovable. Offer and accept forgiveness as needed. Anne Lamott maintains that families are the training ground for forgiveness, and I believe she's right. These are good life lessons which I would suggest are better learned from reading a Bible story than through personal experience. We don't always have to do the wrong things before we learn to do the right things. Living as part of a family can be challenging. Families can be difficult. It is the rare family where there is no conflict. And estrangement of some kind happens more often than one might think. Sometimes it happens around a parent's will and the children's inheritance, one child receiving more than the other or the others. Sometimes it happens because an adult child needs to escape a parent's ongoing need for control. Sometimes it happens around issues of addiction or instances of abuse. But estrangement happens. Physical or emotional harm also happens more often than we would like to acknowledge. And sometimes, although we may try to address and to resolve or to fix a situation, that just doesn't work. As was the case with Reuben, our efforts get us nowhere. Estrangement is rarely one-sided. Joseph may not see that his actions are a reason for his brother's hatred. The brothers can't see beyond their father's favoritism and their young brother's youthful boasting. Joseph thinks he's better than his siblings. And it's likely now he's thinking that nothing he's done warrants tossing him into a pit and selling him into slavery. And he wouldn't be wrong. So, there is a great deal of hurt in this story, and there is much to forgive. Sometimes that's how it is in families. In the words of Henry Nouwen, our most painful suffering comes often from those who love us and those we love. The relationships between husband and wife, parents and children, brothers and sisters, teachers and students, pastors and parishioners, these are where the deepest wounds occur. Even late in life, yes, even after those who wounded us have long since died, we might still need help to sort out what happened in these relationships. Nouwen goes on to add these words of caution. The great temptation, he says, is to keep blaming those who were closest to us for our present condition, saying, "You made me who I am now, and I hate who I am." The great challenge is to acknowledge our hurts and claim our true selves as being more than the result of what other people do to us. Only when we can claim our God-made selves are the true source of our being, will we be free to forgive those who have wounded us. So, could the story of Joseph serve as a cautionary tale, warning us to handle our family relationships with care? Yes. Yes. But I believe there's more here. Of course, we could jump ahead to the conclusion of this saga, which would enable us to find some meaning in it, enable us to see God's providence at work. But that's not the way life works. Today's lectionary reading ends with Joseph having been sold for 20 pieces of silver to some Ishmaelites and then taken to Egypt as a slave. At this point, he has no idea how this story is going to end many years later. And that's how it is in our lives, is it not? Bad things, sometimes terrible things, will happen to us, and we have no idea how things will turn out. Of course, it is our faith that God, who promises never to leave us or forsake us, is ever present. It is our faith that in our most troubled times, God is not going to abandon us and will in fact come to our assistance, providing us with strength to face and endure whatever life throws at us. It is our faith that God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. But what is interesting is that in today's passage, there is no mention of God. Where is God in the midst of this story? Where is God when Joseph gets thrown into the pit? Good questions. Renowned biblical scholar Walter Brueggemann sees God's presence in this story in the form of the dream. He writes, "The main character in the drama is Yahweh. Though hidden in the form of a dream, silent and not at all visible, the listener will understand that the dream is the unsettling work of Yahweh, upon which everything else depends. Without the dream, there would be no Joseph and no narrative. From the perspective of the brothers, without the dream, there would be no trouble, no conflict. For the father, without the dream, there would be no grief or loss. The dream sets its own course, the father-brother dreamers notwithstanding. And in the end, the dream prevails over the tensions of the family." I believe Brueggemann is right, inasmuch as the dream is the work of God, and we see that later, then God is present in the drama. However, that explanation isn't altogether satisfying. Joseph and his father and his brothers don't know that the dream is the work of God. Such understanding will come much later. At this point in the saga, what they experience is God's apparent absence. What they hear from God is silence. And that, at times, is true for us as well. Just as Jacob must sit with his grief, just as the brothers must live with the gnawing feeling of that what they did was wrong, just as Joseph must live with the uncertainty of what tomorrow might bring without a clear sense of God's presence or guidance, so it is with us at times when God appears to be absent. And we must sit with whatever we're feeling: sadness, anger, questions, hurt. We must deal with the feelings of guilt if in some way we've acted like the brothers and hurt someone whom we're supposed to love. We must keep faith, even when our world is falling apart around us and we don't feel God's presence. We must keep the faith, trusting that we have not been abandoned by God. We must hang on and fight for the presence of God because we can trust that God is faithful. Like the characters in this story of the family of Jacob, sometimes we must simply wait. We must wait before we are able to see God's hesed at work. We must wait before we are able to see God's generous provision of compassion, grace, and mercy. But as surely as the sun will rise in the morning, it will come. It eventually does come for the messed up family of Jacob, and it will come for us as well. And so, my friends, when life gets hard, and it will, keep the faith. Our God is faithful. Amen.